All right, can everyone see the screen fine? All right, sounds good. All right, so today we're gonna finish up on HTML. In fact, this is gonna be our last live lecture on HTML. So you guys should be expecting to kind of, like our websites are building up. And so this should be like like a milestone for our class and our project. So let's get started. So what we're learning today, just overall, a little bit of preview. So first we're learning the image tag, how to put images on our web page, and what does relative versus absolute paths mean. And then we have the A tag, which is learning how to put links on your web page. And then next we have making multiple pages. So you're gonna actually get a chance to make your website multi-pages instead of just having one landing page. So how to have multiple HTML pages working together and file organization. And lastly, we're gonna do like a little exercise for menu bar, like a little demo, putting everything together that we learned today. And today's lesson it might be a little bit confusing. I tried to make it as easy to follow as possible. But if anyone has questions, like meanwhile, like please tell me, let me know. And then like if I'm going too fast, also let me know so that I can stop and explain each step. All right, so let's get started. So first, displaying images using the image tag, absolute path versus relative path, and organizing your resource files. So first, we have the image tag useful for displaying images on your web page. And it looks like this. So we have this opening tag right here, image img, and then a little src equal sign with a quotation mark and a little like image file name. And then we have alt equals description with quotation marks. So let's just break it down really quick because this is like unlike all the other tags we've used so far. So first we have this section, the src equals image.jpg. This is a URL for the image. This is it's better described as location actually, or like the file path. And so URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. So if you ever like go on the internet, I'm pretty sure you guys have been on the internet for a while. You see on the top of the Google Chrome or Safari, whatever you use, you see this little HTTPS ://www.google.com. So actually everything on the internet has this kind of like locator for like the websites and everything. So we're going to be using this and also another path that we'll talk about later. But yeah, basically what this does is specifies the path to the image so that the computer can find what image we're talking about. And then next we have the alternate text for the image. So if the image like has problems, like let's say like the image doesn't exist or something went wrong with loading it, then this text appears on the web page instead. All right. And you guys might have noticed just looking at the image tag we have here, there's two things that are new, like new format, right? So we have this src equals and alt equals. So these are actually called attributes. And what attributes do is that they provide additional information about element. So we're talking about the image tag here, image element. And they're always specified in the start tag, not the end tag. We'll see this in a different example because image tag actually doesn't have an end tag. We see it just has like just one tag to start, but attributes always otherwise goes to start tag. And also it's in the format of name equals value. So for this attribute, it's called the source attribute. So the name of the source attribute is src equals, and then the value of whatever we put here. And then same goes for alternate text. So we have alt as a name equals and the value that we put in here. So these are the values that we're going to be changing, this little things in quotation marks, but src equals and alt equals are never going to change. Okay, so, oh, sorry. So we have this, let me see. Oh, that might have been a mistake. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, the image tag, basically, this is like a little bit of an example. And so we have source equals baby Yoda.jpeg. JPEG is just one of the file types for image files. And then we have alt baby Yoda. So if we actually run this website, you see that there's this little Yoda picture right here on the website. And then if the image doesn't load for any reason, it actually should say baby Yoda with like a little bit of a cross image on it. Does anyone know where this is from by any chance? Baby Yoda? Anyone want to say the TV show? No one's confident. Okay.
The Mandalorian.
Oh yeah, The Mandalorian. Nice, Abby. Yeah, this is another like it's from Star Wars, but yeah, it's really cute. So I just figured I should put it in here. Okay, so next, how to use the SRC attribute. So in order to use the SRC attribute, we have to use links to specify where the image is, right? Like we have to, on this example, for example, like we put baby Yoda.jpeg. So how do these names or like how do these links come about is the big question that we have. So let's learn the different ways to tell the computer where our image is. And there's like a couple ways of doing this. All right, and so now is the reason why we're going to be talking about absolute and relative. So I think this is a little bit misleading. It's actually not a URL all the time, so I'm going to erase this really quick. And then let me just turn off the laser pointer. Okay, so we have the two types of paths, which is absolute and relative, and we'll go over the relative first. So imagine yourself as a tour guide. You're touring another person through a maze, right? And you're trying to figure out where this baby Yoda is. And you know where, actually, you know the location of where you should go, but you don't know how to get there yet. So you as a tour guide is trying to guide this person right here, right? So relative paths, actually, you act as like an actual like active guide in order to take this girl to the baby Yoda. But absolute path is a little bit different. So unlike relative path, absolute path, you can be separate from this girl, but still tell her where the baby Yoda is, like what the directions are. So you see, this girl is going to the baby Yoda by taking these directions, but then you're not physically going with her. Actually, you can be anywhere around the maze and still tell her like how to get to the baby Yoda. So you can kind of see it as like I drew like a little bit of a Wi-Fi sign, but basically wherever you are, you already know the location of the baby Yoda. So you're just guiding her, like just telling her where to go. And the important thing about absolute path that's different from relative path is that there is a starting point. So this girl is always going to start here and never start anywhere else. And therefore, her direction to the baby Yoda is always the same. Does that make sense? So yeah, so you can guide her anywhere. She always starts somewhere and ends at this place with the same directions. And for relative paths, a little bit different. So relative path, you can actually be at a different place and still guide her to the baby Yoda. So you see, these are different directions. But whenever you are at a different location, you're always moving with her. So she always starts with you to the maze. And you can even be right next to the baby Yoda and still guide her there. So we see that absolute path, she always starts somewhere, and then you're trying to lead her to wherever she needs to go. But you don't necessarily have to guide her yourself. You already know the directions, you're just telling her the directions. And relative path, you're actually traveling with her depending on where you guys all start with. You guys can start anywhere in the maze and get to the baby Yoda together. So this is a little analogy that I like to use when explaining this. And so when we see it more like clear with the definitions, so absolute path means a full path to the file. So it contains the root element and a complete directory list. And I'll discuss what this means later. So URL. So we have this internet link right here, and then we have this computer path. So you see that any URL will start with HTTPS, right? So this can be seen as like a root element. So everywhere in the internet, wherever you go, it always starts at the root server. And this might be a little bit confusing, but it'll get easier. And so same as computer. So this is actually a file path for a Mac. So it might look a little bit different from Windows path. But basically on Mac, you always start at users. That's like the root element. That's like where every single file starts with, and it specifies the directions until we get to this baby Yoda.jpg. And then relative path, unlike absolute path, is actually not a full path. It's a partial path to the file relative to the current location. And so therefore it does not contain the root element, and it is partial directory list. So we see this computer images slash babyyoda.jpg. So notice how this doesn't start at the users, right? This doesn't start all the way back from like where addresses begin, if that makes sense. And so relative paths basically don't have all the information of where this place is, but it's only speaking in relative to where you are taking her in the beginning. Another example that I can give, absolute path, you can see it as like your home address, like 1234, like Washington Avenue, California, like USA 90241. I totally made that up. But relative path is more like, instead of saying that full address, you're just saying, oh, from the liquor store down the block, you have to go straight, go left, and then go right, and you'll be there. So that's the difference. And then so this is an example of the relative path. So you see that HTML files right here, and then they're under the same folder, right? So the HTML acts as the guide, and so we're kind of getting to the file from the HTML location. So we're already under demo, right? So we don't need to specify that. And it's saying, oh, from here, you're going to go to the images file, and then you're going to go to the Baby Yoda file. Does that all make sense? All right, sounds good. And then there's the Baby Yoda file in the images folder. All right, and then we're gonna actually see this, how it works on actual computer. So again, absolute path is a full path to the file from a root starting point. And then relative path is a relative path to the file from the current location. So absolute path. Where do you think the absolute path will start, Abby? If we want to get to soils right here.
Maybe at the base and infrastructure.
Oh, close guess. Oh,
Yeah.
actually, so how this diagram works is that this folder, so everything here is within this shapefiles folder, and everything here is in this final folder, and all the folders are in that data folder, and everything is contained within this D folder, D colon folder. So really good guess, but absolute path starts with the root of the file. So it'll start at the D file where everything is contained with, and then it'll go down the ladder into the soils. And relative paths are a little different. So let's say that we're starting in data. If we're starting here, then we're just gonna take all the way over here. And if we're starting at a shapefiles, we're gonna just go down the ladder like this. And since we're starting here instead of all the way in the base, we don't have to specify the directions that it takes before the shapes file. We just have to specify that, oh, it's in the shapes file, so just go to soils. So any questions before we move on? I know that was a lot. Any confusion? Are you guys all understanding this? Any questions? Okay, so how out of 5, how much are you guys understanding this? If you guys can give a hand. 1, completely don't understand. 2, I need a lot more help. 3, I'm okay. 4, I think I'm getting it. And then 5, I completely got it. Any hands on the screen?
Mine would be 4.5.
Oh, 4.5, good one. Anyone else? And it's okay if you're like completely, lost. I understand. It's a lot of content. So, but yeah, if we don't have any questions yet, we'll move on to more stuff. So now we're gonna talk about how we can use all of that we just learned about path and everything and actually use an image. So using image tag from the internet. So this time we're gonna get an image from the internet. So the steps are number 1, you're gonna find the image that you want on the internet and copy the image address and then paste it onto the src attribute. So whenever you look for like an image on Google, you might notice that if you right click it, and this might look a little bit different on Windows because this is Mac, but there's always that copy image address. So instead of copying the image or saving the image as, if you're just importing it straight from the internet, we're just gonna copy the email address and put it under the src attribute. And does anyone know what kind of path this is? Anyone want to guess? Is it an absolute one or is it a relative one? Joanna, do you want to take a guess?
Maybe a relative path. I'm not sure.
Ooh, really close. But actually, this is gonna be a absolute path. So reason why is because usually the URLs that we get, the links that we get on the internet are like absolute paths because they all start with like the HTTPS, like the World Wide Web server, if that makes sense. So most of the times, if we get any kind of address from the internet directly, it's most likely going to be an absolute path in this class. So yeah, really good guess, but yeah. And then so we see that when we copy the email address and then paste it on the src, we put it in quotations, and then this should give us an image of the baby Yoda. And then we'll do a quick demo. Does anyone have any requests on what image we should use? What should I search up on Google? Anything?
Harry Potter.
Oh, Harry Potter. Okay, sounds good. Let's search up Harry Potter. So I'm just Googling and then I'm gonna go under images and I'm gonna use this picture of Harry Potter. So when we right click it, we see this copy image address, right? So we've got a copied image. And now let me share my screen instead. Okay. And now we're gonna go on VS Code. And then make a new file. Actually, I already have a file that I'm gonna be using. So I'm gonna just open this up with VS Code. And then, so we're gonna do open bracket. We're gonna do img for image. And then our source will be in quotations, remember? And then we're gonna just copy paste the link. And alt will say Harry Potter, because this is an image of Harry Potter. Okay, I saved it. And let's see what it looks like. All right, now we have an image of Harry Potter here. Nice job. Okay. So, was everyone able to see that well? Does sharing work okay? Okay. Sounds good. I'm gonna turn on the... All right, so this is good and all, and we got it to work, right? Our image looks pretty crispy, pretty good. But there's actually a big problem doing this. And we're probably not going to be doing this a lot in this class. So this is actually not recommended. Oh no. And the reason why it's not recommended to use images directly from the internet and the address It's because first of all, the URL is usually really, really long. So for this example that we did just now, let me pull it up. The link wasn't too long, right? But most of the times, this is a lot longer than like our example. And so it just takes a lot of space and it makes your code look really messy. So unlike relative paths, we'll discuss in the future, absolute paths contain every single directory. So it's natural for those links to be really long. And second, your image will depend on the website most of the times. So because you are copying the image address, right? So you're basically telling your HTML file to go to that specific website. Well, what happens when the website removes the picture or they decide to change their website, right? So if they decide to remove the image, your image tag won't work anymore. And if they decide to change the location of the image, it might not work. It still may work, but most of the times there's going to be errors. So it's better to use image tag directly from your computer most of the times. So how we're going to do this is, number one, we're going to save an image inside the folder of an HTML file. So let's make an extra folder inside for images. And we're going to type the image's relative path into the src attribute. So this time we're going to be using relative instead of absolute path. And we see this in here. So I made a little bit of a folder with index.html, and then I put images in this thing. So when we downloaded it, we can just specify, oh, it's going to be an images file, and images folder, sorry, and then it's going to be the Baby Yoda file. And the Windows is a little bit different. And quick thing about using Windows or Mac is that their links are actually going to be a little different because of the naming schemes. So Mac OS is going to use front slash like this, but Windows actually use the backslash instead. So it might look a little bit different on your code depending on what kind of computer you're using. And then when you're actually typing on VS Code, and I'll show this through the demo, but it actually should like kind of have this like auto-complete feature, and it actually shows you where the folder is or where the image is, and we'll get to that with a quick demo. So let's download an image and display it. Does anyone else, since Grace went last time? Oh, sorry. Does anyone else have any recommendations on like what picture we should be using? Any picture is fine.
Maybe some transformers. I don't know.
Okay, transformers. Let's do it. All right, and you're gonna hate me for this, but I don't know too much about transformers, so I'm just gonna use the first picture that we have here. If that's okay. And then we're gonna right-click and save image on our desktop. On our desktop. Transformers. Okay. And let's go through this. So the way you guys have been doing your homework, I only told you guys to make like one HTML file, right? So instead of doing that, we're gonna do a little bit different. So we're gonna make a new folder, and this is gonna be your website project. And you're gonna put whatever HTML file that you had into this new folder here so that we can get it all nice and organized. And then inside here, I'm going to make a new folder just for images because we're going to be using a lot of images in our final project. So it's kind of messy if we just have it all over the file. So we're going to have a separate file just for images. And then in the images file folder, sorry, I keep getting it mixed up. On the images folder, I'm going to put our new transformer image. Okay, sounds good. So let's open this HTML up. Open with Visual Source Code. And I'm just going to delete this. Actually, let's just keep it. And we're going to do image src equals. All right, quotations. So you notice how as soon as I put quotations, it shows like every single file that's in the folder, right? So it shows that there's an images folder and there's an index folder, index HTML file, which is this one. So we don't want the index file. So we're gonna go to images and you can just click on this or you can type it out. And we're gonna go to transformers, JPEG, and this is a relative path. Transformers. All right, notice how like this absolute path looks a little different from this relative path. It's a lot shorter, right? And then let's see if this works. So we have the Harry Potter from last time. And we got, oh my gosh, this image is big. We got this transformer big image file. All right, sounds good. Let's get back into the lesson. Sorry, give me a second. All right, looks good. All right, so as I discussed just now, you're gonna have a new way of organizing your files. So we're gonna have this my website huge folder and where you'll put your HTML file and then an image file right next to it so that we can be more organized and we can actually access these images easier. So the source attribute, the link or the path, I guess, is gonna be like pretty consistent because we're gonna put all our images in this image folder, right? So accessing any images is gonna be on macOS, src equals images slash picture1, picture2, picture3.png or JPEG. And Windows is gonna be src equals images slash picture1.png, picture2, picture3, and goes on. All right, any questions before we move on to our next topic? Is anyone like really confused? Everyone's doing okay? All right, sounds good. Then we'll move on to putting links. All right, so this time we're gonna be using a tag and how to take the user to a different web page. So a tag is used like this. So it's useful for adding links to a different web page in text. And it's with open bracket open bracket href equals quotation marks and the website, and then a little bit of text in between because we're putting the link in the text, right? And a closing tag. So unlike the image tag, you actually notice that there is open tag and a close tag, or start tag and an end tag. And so what do all these mean? So first, we have the href attribute. So this is different than src or alt, right? But it's essentially the same thing. It's an attribute. So it describes a URL for the web page that we want to go to. It's either a web URL or a local HTML file. And the text in between is the text that's going to have the link. So this will be a clickable link text. And if you click on this text, it will take you to a different web page specified with the href tag or attribute. All right, and let's see how this is going to work. So this is a little example. So we have this in the body, a tag with href specifying to the OrangeNote.org and take me to OrangeNote. So you see when we run the website, it has like a little bit of, it might look blue, but it might look purple depending on if you've clicked it or not. And then a little underline. So it says, take me to OrangeNote. And when you click on this, it actually takes you to the OrangeNote website. And let's do a quick demo on this too. Do you guys have any like favorite websites that you like to use or anything? Anyone? If not, it's okay. Let's see. So we're gonna have the opening bracket with a, and then href attribute equals quotation mark And I think, where should we go? Let's go to YouTube. YouTube.com. I think this should be it. And then on the text, I'm gonna put take me to YouTube. All right, so we have A again here with an opening tag with the href attribute and the link that we want to go to and the text that we're gonna put it under and a closing tag, the /. Right, and then let's run it. We still have these images from before. And then if you guys see it right here, there's this little, I'm gonna zoom in. There's this little font right here. And then this is clickable, so I'm gonna click it. And this takes me to YouTube. Bunch of piano videos, I guess. But yeah, so that's how it works. So we can go back and click it again and stuff like that. All right, and we'll go back to the lesson. Does anyone know where this is from? This ice bear? Oh, Annabelle, do you know?
We Bear Bears.
Yeah, it's from another TV show called We Bear Bears. It's actually they're all speaking in English, but the creator of the TV show was actually Korean. So that's a fun fact. And yeah. And we're gonna be using this A tag to create multiple web pages. So how to make a multi-page website and how to organize your files again. So using the A tag. So number one, you're gonna create multiple HTML files, but make sure that they're all in one folder so it's easy to access. And you're gonna get the relative path of your HTML file and insert it into the href attribute. So you see how href equals quotation mark new file.html. So this is actually gonna make our website have multiple pages because who likes having just one boring website, right? Just one page. Every single website that you guys use on like YouTube, Facebook, Google, everything has different links and different things to go to. So we're gonna make our page a little more interactive. So yeah, so how to organize your files using this. So basically we have this picture from before. We're gonna have my website folder with HTML file, images file folder and everything. But in order to have more HTML pages, we're gonna create separate HTML in the my website folder. So these are gonna be right next to each other so that when we try to access this new file, we can just type in new file.html on the href attribute. And this is an example. So we have this, we have this demo folder. And then inside the demo folder, I put this index, this thing we've already had it before, but I've put a new file.html in the same folder so that we can access it from index. And then we'll have a short demo of this too. So we're gonna be using the A tag. Okay. So on the welcome screen, let's make a new file. And I'm gonna do HTML. Oh, all right. And I'm gonna save it under website project. What do you guys want to name this HTML? What should our second page be about? Any ideas? It can be anything. If
Baby Yoda.
Oh, Baby Yoda. Okay, that works too. But let's put Baby Yoda biography, just in case we get it confused with the picture, because we already have the Baby Yoda picture, right? All right. So we named it Baby Yoda biography. And on this, so let's just get rid of all the format that we need for the class. Type HTML. I hope you guys still remember this. What comes next? What comes next? Let me see. Joanna.
Head.
Yeah. Head tag. And here is Grace. What goes here in the head tag? Hint, it's a little like heading that we have on top of the
Body.
oh, really close. So the body tag goes next over here. But the title goes inside the head.
Oh yeah.
Title.
I thought you were doing after the head.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no worries. And so title will have Baby Yoda's biography or bio for short. And on here, I'm just gonna talk about heading. Made a mistake. Heading 1 and be like, hi, my name is Baby Yoda. And I'm gonna put an image too. So help me put an image. Let's see. Annabelle, what should I put to have an image? What tag do we need to use? Starts with an I.
Aren't there 2 types of ways?
Oh, just the image. So not the link, but image. Sorry, what was that? Oh, IMG. Yeah. IMG. All right. So what's the next attribute that we need to use, Abby?
You need to put the SCR
Yes.
equals and then the link.
SRC equals and then the little thing. So we have it under images folder, right? So we're gonna go to images slash, and this slash is gonna be different if you're on Windows, because I'm on Mac, I'm using /. On Windows, you use backward slash. Images, and then baby. Oh, interesting. Oh yeah. I forgot to put, silly mistake. I forgot to put the Baby Yoda picture over here. So I'm gonna put the Baby Yoda picture right next to Transformers in the image folder really quick. And then now we have images, Baby Yoda. And, oh, spoiler. Alt equals, I'm gonna put Baby Yoda's picture. Okay, so this is done for our second web page. But when we launch HTML, we're still stuck in this Harry Potter and Transformers, right? So I'm gonna put a new tag here. What tag do we use to go to a different web page, Paul?
The her how do I say it?
Oh, it starts with a sound. The one letter tag for links. Okay, no worries.
I think it was the it wasn't the 8 since I learned coding before. There was an 8 one as well.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a tag. Good job. So we have a tag's opening tag and closing tag. And so and I think Paul was trying to say this, the href, right, Paul?
Yes.
So we have the href attribute. So this is an attribute, not a tag. So it's gonna go under the a tag. And I'm gonna put quotations, and we're gonna go to the Baby Yoda biography. Oh, and a quick note, I'm on the index HTML. So we have this index HTML that we're coding on there. And then Baby Yoda biography is in the same folder, but a different HTML file. So the relative path to that is just gonna be the file name because it's already under the same folder, website project. And quick question. So let's say I make a folder, right? A different folder called HTML files. and I put Baby Yoda under here, what would be the new relative path? Any guesses? So we have this folder together, website project, but inside that we have the HTML files folder and the HTML folders here, the files here. So in order to get from index to this HTML file, how do we specify this? What goes before our Baby Yoda biography? Joanna, any guesses?
The file name, like the HTML files.
Yeah, good job. Yeah, so we're just gonna have to specify one step further because now it's in a different folder, right? Inside that folder. So we're gonna go HTML files. And for folder names, we usually don't have any like .html or anything. It's just HTML files. So good job. That was just a little bit of a quiz. So I'm gonna just put it back into where it was before, and I'm gonna just delete this really quick. All right. So we have this. And the text we'll have as, I'm gonna make it a heading because we want the text to look bigger. Take me to Baby Yoda. And let's launch this. We have this big file, big font. Take me to Baby Yoda. And we're gonna click on this and it goes to the Baby Yoda. Isn't that cool? And yeah, we can just keep going back and forth, I guess. All right, so what did we learn? So in summary of everything that we've covered, we have first, we learned two things, right? Image tag and a tag. So first, image tag. Image tags are useful for displaying images on your web page. And it's used by the open bracket, img, src equals some kind of link or some kind of path, and alt equals some kind of description of the image that we're using. So there's no end tag to this. They're just one opening bracket and one closing bracket. And we learned that there's an src attribute that specifies the location of the file. So there's two ways. So picture from the internet, we use a URL link, which is an absolute path, but not recommended for many reasons, because first, that's too long. Second, they might do something on the internet that disrupts you loading the file. So it might not go the way you want it to. And so the recommended way is actually just downloading the picture on your computer and using a relative path. So having like a folder of images and just getting the images from that folder. And if the image doesn't load, we have the description and alt attribute that displays instead. And then next we have the a tag, which are useful for putting links on the text. So it's leading to a different web page for the user. And this is how you use it. So we have the opening bracket, we have a, and then href equals link. Oh, and make sure you guys have spaces in between these source, alt, href, like these attributes, so that HTML file knows that we have different attributes at work here. So make sure you guys put spaces. And href equals link, and then text in the middle, and then some kind of, /a. And there is an end tag for this one. So href attribute specifies the URL of the link. And then to another web page on the internet. If you want to go to another web page, so you can just copy the URL link of the website like I did for YouTube. Or if you want to go to a web page that you made, then you use the relative path to your other HTML files. So this is a summary of everything that we've learned. And let's take a quick, do we have time for a break? Let's take a quick 3-minute break. I know we've covered a lot. So We'll be back at 7:50. We're 10. Can everyone see the slides okay? All right, sounds good. All right, so next we have the div tag. So I know we already covered a lot of tags. It was 2 tags, but there's a lot of content in them. So we're just gonna brush up on this because we're gonna be covering this later again. But this is just like a preview of what's gonna come next. So we have the div tag, and div tags are useful for dividing your HTML files into different sections. So any elements or tags go in between these two divs. So we have the opening div and the closing div. And this is really simple. So this is all we're going to use it for. But it's really good to use because dividing your code into sections has a lot of positive benefits to this. And a lot of real life programmers actually do this. So we don't want to deal with like a bunch of text and bunch of codes on our coding, like on our coding file. And sometimes it gets cluttered. It gets really like too much for me to like us to understand. And so more organized, it makes your code more organized, and it therefore increases the readability of your code. And this is really important when you share your code so that they'll understand better. So when other people see your code, they should be able to understand at a blink of an eye. And it's also good for yourself because it makes it easier for you to edit different parts of your code. And we're going to cover this later on the next lesson, but it's useful for editing your elements with CSS. CSS is a different programming language. Sorry, not a programming language, but like a coding language. And we'll talk about this further in the next lesson. But yeah, so div tags actually don't do anything to your web page. So when you run it on, let me go to my VS Code really quick. When you go and make div right here, let's say I want to section the images off, it actually doesn't do anything different when we actually launch the web page. It still looks the same as how it was, right? We had with this really big transformers page. But it's useful. Oh, I'm so sorry. The screen, I've been sharing my Google Chrome instead of. So VS Code, on VS Code, we have it here. So that here I put a div tag around this. Let's put another div tag. So I'm going to put a div tag here just to section this little YouTube off. And then I'll put extra text. YouTube, I love YouTube. So that we know that these tags are only used for YouTube tags. And when we see it on the website, it's actually just going to look the same. Yeah. Instead of the font that we just added, but you know, that's always been there. So yeah, div tags actually don't do anything to your website. It's just for you and other users of VS Code that you can just see that the code kind of separates nicer. And there's going to be more of a legitimate reason to why we use this in the next lesson. So yeah, just know that we use div tags to section off different parts of the code. And any questions about div tag or anything that we've covered, image tag, a tag? Oh, Annabelle, did you have a question?
Is there any way to make the picture smaller or any size you want?
Good point. I was going to cover that today, but I wasn't sure if I should. So it's actually using attributes. So we see how, I'm going to just move this. You see how we use these two different attributes, right? SRC and alt. So there's bonus attributes to image. So that's not all of it. So we have this really big transformers, right? But there's a new attribute called width equals, and there's also height equals. I didn't cover this because you can either do this just now, right, like this, or you can do this on CSS, which is what we're gonna cover next week. Next class. But yeah, so how to do it in HTML. So I think these are pixels, but I'm not sure, I could be wrong. So if you specify, oh, you want it to be like 100 width, or let's do 500. It changes the width. So width is like right here and the height is like this, right? So it changes the width of the image like this. And you see how the height also changed with the width, right? So when we actually just specify the change of the width, where is it? Yeah, here. The height actually just automatically changes as well in proportion of the original image. So we see how Harry Potter, we're gonna do width, or let's do height this time because height is the same. Height of 700. And when we refresh this, now let me do this smaller. 300. Refresh this, then we see it shrinks a little bit. And we can actually define both height and width. So if I want it to be 100, and if I want the width to be like really long, like 1000, then it also changes for you like this. So yeah, depending on how you specify these values, it's gonna look different. But don't worry too much about this yet, because we're gonna learn how to change the picture sizes in a different way as well later. But yeah, great question, Annabelle. Any other questions? Going once, going twice, going thrice. But yeah, okay, if no one has any more questions, that will be it for today's class. Thank you for coming, guys. Thank you for coming early too at 6:55. Make sure on Google Classroom, you guys, I put the song request for pre-lecture. Make sure put more songs, okay? You can edit your responses too if you want to put more after you already put something. So yeah, put song requests so I can play them.
Thank you so much.